Everybody. I decided that I just wanted to spend a little bit of time with my amazing friend, Jennifer Jeffries, and talk about our 30-day reset program because Jen was the very first person who introduced me to the program. And you can see the program right up there, the 30-day reset. But it means so much more than just a 30-day reset. So, I'm going to flick straight to Jen because Jen was the one who started using this program before me. So, Jen, would you like to just share your story?
Yeah, so it's 16 years ago in 2 weeks. I was traveling the world as a professional speaker, specializing in about how to prevent burnout in the workplace. And if you are in that burnout hole, how to get out of it. And had been writing about books and doing all this and creating all my own concoctions and protocols to keep me healthy for years, well, decades actually, for 2 decades by then. And you showed me some of this program, which actually a couple of the tonics, and I pulled it apart in such a big way and went far out. Like mainstream companies don't use naturopath ingredients. And I was so interested, excited. I started pulling it apart. And then I saw it was network marketing, which I'd never done and was never going to do because I was a professional. And so I cast it aside for months. And after months, I was hand blending my own tonic one day, my adrenal tonic, and went, this is silly. Here is a tonic sitting here that just looks so damn cool, but my naturopath ego wouldn't let me try. So eventually I did get off my naturopath ego. And after even just a couple of weeks, people started to say, Jen, you've always had a lot of energy, but this is getting a bit silly. What are you doing? And then my naturopath ego was even more bent out of shape. And I went, nothing, nothing, nothing. And it was like, Jen, this is silly. You're using this 30-day reset and feeling great. Why don't you share with people about it? Well, here I am, 16 years later. I'll turn 65 in a couple of months, and I wish everyone felt as strong, fit, and healthy as I do. I start, sunrise surf every morning. I feel so good. It's crazy cool. And I know I could have been creating my own protocols back for that last 16 years. However, this took uh, all of that work out of it for me because this program pulled it apart and it had got all the ticks that I wanted as a naturopath, but enough for me to want to use it with myself. And so I've gone from being the biggest skeptic pain in the ass to a midlife woman, absolutely thriving in every way. And I think every other woman should and person should feel this good as well, no matter your age.
Thank you, Jen. And how just before we move on, I want to ask you one question. How has this program impact your surfing? Because you're a crazy surfer and you get out there
I'm a
in.
passionate surfer.
Oh, okay. Yes, passionate surfer. Absolutely. So how's this, how's it made a difference for your strength, etc.?
Uh, look, I surf with people I've got, really good friends in their 20s and 30s. And so often I'm in the surf longer and it's like I'm doing that. I don't want to go in. There's one more wave. Like, so my stamina, my paddling's improved, everything. It's been the summer holidays. I've been up at 4 a.m. every morning and in the surf by 5 for the last couple of months. And it just, yeah, it's just improved my overall health and wellness, let alone the stamina to at 65 be paddling out in the surf and to, do an hour and a half session and be able to back it up with Pilates and all the other kind of exercise I choose to do. But it's like, yeah, just makes it a no-brainer. But you're the crazy runner. You call me crazy surfer. You're the crazy runner.
Yes, well, when I think about all those years back, over a decade ago, when I started playing with these products, and I think about where I was at then, and I was 13 kilos heavier than I am now. I was totally unfit, could not do a squat without holding onto a pole. That was how I used to do my squats. And since then, yes, I dropped the weight, but it's not about, even though we've got that slide up there that says 30-day reset, it's not about the 30 days. It's about the lifestyle that I was able to create as a result of starting with that 30, 60, 90 days. And I went to Jen and I said, because I'd been dabbling with the products, tried a shake here and a shake there and a few things like that, said, I need to get strong enough to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And I remember her saying, well, you just got to do the program. It's quite simple. And so I went, okay. And she guided me through it and I did it. And the biggest thing for me is, as I say, not the weight loss, but the energy, the sleep, the fact that I was training then, I was working full time in another job. I was training every night for Kilimanjaro, and I was able to do all of that. And that was the big difference. It was just unreal. And since then, yes, I have become a runner. I started off with 5K park runs and went to half marathons, marathons, and now I've become an ultra runner. And to think that at 66, I'm about to achieve 100 miles on the 14th of February is quite surreal, really. And like Jen said, this has given me the baseline of health that I really needed to then be able to train. And yes, there's some great products that I'll be using all the way through that race, but it's more the baseline that I think.
And that's the thing that, any naturopath, when you go and see them in the first month, we want to just get you back to what I call the alkaline corridor, which is where your core basics work. It's where 80% of your great health comes from. And so this program is so, it's synergistically put together like a naturopath thinks, where each part, each element is designed to work together to get you back to that place where you've got a strong foundation. Because otherwise, if you haven't got a strong foundation, I see people trying this new clever thing from the internet and all that kind of stuff. They're just all over the shop and buying this here and buying that there. Nothing's designed to fit together. And they don't have that foundation. And they wonder, it's like a big tall building. You've got to put that down first before you can build up. And that's why here we are living a lifestyle that works for us. And our body's got that really strong foundation. So if anything comes at us, we're like, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
And that's the whole living from a place of prevention, not waiting to do crappy sleep, not waiting to do crappy moods or crappy energy or crappy weight or any of the crap, but actually aging strong, fit, and healthy. And it's never too late. It's like start, get that strong foundation and build from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now, for those of you, by the way, who are on here, if you're on here live, feel free to pop any questions in the chat. If you're watching the recording, then message me any questions or Jen that come up. But what I'd like to do now is just explore. You've heard two different people. Jen, we're both in our 60s. Jen's a surfer. I'm a runner. But the thing that I love most about this program is it suits so many different people. A stressed out mum who definitely doesn't need to lose weight, but needs to cope with day-to-day life. Someone who needs to put on weight, someone who needs to just lose that 5 kilos, or someone who has a bigger goal than that. Jen, how can you just sort of explain why it covers so many different areas?
Well, as a naturopath, we always look to see what's happening behind. You've got the symptoms showing that there's something in your body out of balance. We care about not that. Well, we do care about that, but we also care about what's sitting behind it. And so if you have got crappy weight, well, what's contributing to it? What if you're doing crappy sleep or crappy energy or crappy mood, whatever it is? What is the stress or what is the element that's sitting behind it? And so often it is stress. And the thing that ages our body the fastest and taxes our health the fastest is biological stress. So stress is good for us. However, when it's out of control and relentless, like the little bites, not the big ones nowadays, it's the kids going, mum, mum, mum. It's the too many emails, too much traffic, too much interesting stuff happening in the world, all that kind of stuff. It taxes us. So when we are under stress, our cortisol rises. Cortisol is the stress hormone, but when it's out of balance, it becomes the death hormone. It literally takes time off our life. And that's very much a Chinese medicine thinking. And our body starts trying to protect us from that elevated cortisol. And so it does it by building more visceral fat. And visceral fat is a heart attack fat that literally kind of envelops our organs to try and protect us from us. However, it then becomes the heart attack fat. So the first signs that we see as naturopaths showing up with that kind of stress is broken sleep between like 2 and 4 a.m. That's a classic sign as a naturopath that cortisol's high and your body is sitting in that that stress kind of corridor. And so if you just eat clean and exercise your ass off and do all those things and try going to sleep earlier and all those bits without looking at what's happening behind it, that's why you're not getting the results that you want. And so they're band-aids. Just looking at the symptoms is band-aids. Working on the cause behind it is what brings true change to health. So when I looked at this and did my due diligence, I went, wow, they get it. They think the way naturopaths do. So as a naturopath, we think, okay, let's manage that thing that's sitting behind it, which really 99% of the time is stress. So if we can tell the body just to be able to adapt to stress better, because stress is good for us, but we want to be able to adapt to it when it's relentless and all the bites that are just not giving us a break. We don't get a chance to recover properly. So get that to happen. And then we can support the body's natural detoxifying body systems. And then we can be putting all the good nutrition and all those things back in. So that's where I say this program is very much about getting those core basics right. And for me as a naturopath, the first thing I looked at was the adaptogen tonic that we had. And I went, wow, no one prescribes these herbs like naturopaths do. So nowadays, I've been a naturopath well over 30 years nowadays. And really interesting. Isagenix has been around more than 2 decades, and they were working with adaptogen herbs like I have been as a naturopath before they were trendy. In the last 5 years or so, they've become trendy, and since they've done that, people thinking, no, I'm just going to use some ashwagandha. I'm just going to use like one herb. The problem is adaptogens are a class of herbs that help our body or help all the different body systems. So a naturopath never prescribes one adaptogen on its own. We just don't, because we're not one body system. And so stress will influence different body systems depending on where we're at. So when I looked at this formula and went, wow, okay, they get it. They have a suite of adaptogens to really work with the main body systems. I went, they get it. Really important. And then pulling it apart, I went, wow, betaine hydrochloride, which is exactly the digestive enzyme that as a naturopath I prescribe to get people's gut back online. Because when we stress out in Chinese medicine, we say we dampen, we put the fire out in your belly and food stews instead of digesting. Nowadays, everybody talks about the vagus nerve, and that's what's happening. So when we're stressed, cortisol's high, we crunch our neck, we go, oh, like this. And when we do that, we pinch the vagus nerve, which goes offline, shuts down that gut brain axis, and everything just starts going to shit. So I went, okay, they get it. They've got the right herbs with the right enzymes. And then I went, it even contains molasses. So blackstrap molasses is a great source of magnesium, which is the first mineral that we burn up when we stress out. I went, this is a great tonic, same as I was planning and doing in clinic, except I used to make 3 products to do what this one tonic does. So that was huge for me. We're working on what's sitting behind the symptoms so that people don't just keep doing band-aids, they actually get true results.
Wow. And then I know that with the cleansing, as we said, it works for everybody for different reasons. So yeah, cleanse days, double cleanses, single cleanses. For you, what are the key things about cleansing as part of that whole body system?
Well, the important thing is to help our body work properly. So the herbs that are in this, and I love that, the adaptogens are even in this tonic as well. Because nowadays, again, way before it was trendy, naturopaths have been prescribing a rest day a week, a cleanse day, fasting day, whatever you want to call it, forever. But we always prescribe herbs to make sure that we keep that cortisol in check. Because just not eating puts a stress on your body. And so just not eating spikes your cortisol, which means you put more visceral fat on. The weight that you lose with your just fasting, not, by just not eating and not supporting your body, is generally muscle, not fat. And so even my wife, Alice, so when we got together years ago, and this is just my kind of lifestyle, she thought if she didn't eat, she would starve. And she's the cleanest, most consistent, cleanest whole foods eater I've ever met on the planet. Like insanely consistent, 99% of the time. And she was in the late 50s and losing muscle. And this is a strong exercise woman, like textbook, everything right. But she'd been through the big bushfires, in Australia and lost the family home. And the impact of that stress was still in her body. And as much as she was eating so clean in that, it was beating her body. And so when we started to support her body with adaptogens and we started to get her to start doing cleanse days, which she still does like 4 years later, she knows the benefit. It's Tuesday's a cleanse day. She knows the importance of helping that body to regulate. And so, she put on 2 kilos of weight. So as a 60-year-old woman, that's not easy to do. But in her first under a year, she put on 2 kilos of muscle, which was huge, where most women, a lot of women this age struggle with that. So I love that it's not a calorie deprivation cleanse. It's a support your natural detoxifying body systems to work properly cleanse or fast, whatever you want to call it.
And that makes so much sense, Jen. And as a runner, sometimes I have other runners who go, "Oh, how could you go? We're fueling ourselves and we're building up, and we're eating a lot." And I will never not have cleanses leading up to a race because it's getting me in the best possible place to be able to run that race. And then I can fuel my body with all of that extra protein and carbs and things, a couple of days before. But I've always done a cleanse day or a double the week before a race. And the other thing is on this program, we're just going to move on to our amazing protein shake, is that if you are someone who wants more calories, then you can always do 2 shakes a day and 2 meals a day. That's still keeping to the same protocol, but it's just adding, more fuel into your body. So, yeah, why is our protein shake so good, Jen?
Yeah, look, again, when I pulled every ingredient apart of everything when I did my due diligence because I wasn't going to tie my name as a naturopath and an international speaker to something that I didn't agree with in every way. But as a mainstream product, to work with the majority of the people, it gets really big ticks for me. So one, grass-fed protein, I'd written in my books about the importance of having grass-fed protein to make sure you get the full suite of amino acids. So our shakes have the 21, the full spectrum of amino acids. That's really important. It's not a calorie deprivation shake. It's a balanced meal replacement shake. So undenatured whey protein, or you can do the plant-based protein if you want to do it that way from things like mung beans and fava beans. Um, Very much, the right balance of good fats, good carbs, and good proteins, and the full suite of everything. So it's a true meal replacement. Or if you want to do things like the IsoPro as well. So if I just jump out of the surf, I've had a big session or a big Pilates session even, I'll down an IsoPro shake, pull up another, depending what I do, 20 or 30 or 40 grams of protein, and then an hour later or so, I'll still come and have a full meal replacement, depending on what I'm doing and the goals I'm after at the time. So I love that you can be plant-based, plant-based, or I'm a whey protein girl. I really like whey protein. And by the way, for people who say, "Oh, but I'm sensitive, I get bloated if I have dairy," whey protein, dairy sensitivity and wheat sensitivities come from a gut that's been out of balance from too much stress. So you go, "Well, I just won't eat dairy, I just won't eat wheat and stuff." However, you're working with something like this system where you're working on what's happening behind it and bringing gut chemistry and things back into balance. We find that people, even if they're dairy sensitive on this program, thrive on it. And I love that. So even Alice, my wife, she'll flip between plant-based and our whey protein shake. It's great. And she is a
Yeah.
fussy eater. Yeah.
I love you saying that about switching between them because one of the things that I have some people do is the plant-based, but adding 1 scoop of the IsoPro in there. So it's
To pull
not
up the extra
totally
protein.
plant-based, but
Mm.
well, for taste-wise, just makes it a little bit more creamy, but it also adds the extra protein in there. It's a really high protein shake if you have a full serve of the plant-based and add the IsoPro. And the IsoPro is so good at night. As you know, when you're training or you're over 40, you should be looking at around 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, and that's high, and people don't think it is, but because they think that they've had a nice big bit of tofu or chicken or something, but it's not the weight, it's actually how much protein is in that. So when you actually work out how much protein is in things, you'll realize that it's not quite as easy as you think to get to that amount. And so the Isopro at night, 27 grams of protein in one serve of that Isopro. I
Yeah.
had that last night before bed because it just topped me up and made sure that I was at the right level of protein.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. It makes it a no-brainer. It really does make it a no-brainer. And look, I'm the most realistic and fun eater on the planet, as well as realistic naturopath. And so I know if I have a protein shake 5 days a week, it keeps my gut, all my core basics in the right place. Do I still enjoy my halloumi burger on a Saturday morning after I surf with the girls? Bloody oath. However, I do the core basics to make sure that to come from a place of prevention, I know it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to flick back to that very first slide. So, our 30-day reset is the beginning of that lifestyle shift. And, it suits so many different people. So, as I said before, what would be your most diverse, difference in people who this has really worked for, Jen? I mentioned a few before.
Oh, look, I work with most of my clients are women 40 plus. And so whether they have been sedentary and busy mums and working and all those things, and all of a sudden they just want to get started again, whether they're wanting to lose some weight or get more energy or better sleep, navigate hormonal change times better, all those things. I get the full spectrum of women that I work with. And this just makes it an easier system to do it. So if it was just a calorie deprivation weight loss program, I would not touch it. And it's not that in the least. It's a set a foundation, core basics, get your body working right program. And so, like Alice, she did not need to lose weight, she needed to gain muscle. With someone me, I wanted to be able to, get more flexibility and strength so I can surf better. You want to be able to run distance, but it's not where you were at the start. You would, we can adapt the program as we change and grow through life as well. So 30 days gives you a foundation. Now, if you've been off track for days, weeks, months, or years beforehand, you're not going to be a 10 out of 10 on track in a month. But your body, you'll know that you're heading in the right direction, whether it is energy, sleep, moods, weight, whatever. Okay. 3 months is a blood cycle. It takes 3 months of doing anything to get long-term change in the body. And so naturopath, we always do 12-week protocols. That's a reality. So imagine you give your body a kick up the butt with a 30-day reset and then work with whoever's coaching you through this program to scale it back or adjust it to what you need to keep, working on your goals. And then eventually you find out what works for you to do your maintenance, to be able to come from a place of prevention. And I am stronger, fitter, and healthier now, 12 years later, than what I was when I started Isogenics. And that's gold. More people say that they don't age strong, fit, and healthy. And we're both living examples of how we're that and more. And this has been without a doubt, it's an integral part of my day-to-day life to be able to achieve that easily.
Absolutely, 100%. And when I look at the different people that I work with, so I work with similar people to Jen, but also because of my husband Neil having been on the program for so long, I love working with the guys who want to, drop that 5, 10, 15 kilos and really get themselves back into being strong, fit, and healthy. And it works so well for them. And they don't feel hungry, which I love because that's often a fear of the guys. And
And if they've
also,
had shitty cravings, they lose their cravings in the first couple of weeks. That's a great benefit of this.
absolutely. And for runners, I love working with them on helping them improve their distance. Their recovery is one of the biggest ones because the better you recover, the more you can run. And also speed wise, I had a great fast run today because I do a little bit of fast in there amongst the much more endurance side of things. So it suits everybody. And that's the thing. And the reason I'm so passionate about this program, because it is long-term lifestyle shift of your health and feeding your body. And I ask myself, how come I've stayed the same weight for, over a decade? And that's because I am staying in that, alkaline corridor, keeping myself strong, fit, healthy, and feeling great. And 80% of the time, because if I do slip out, I flick back in pretty quickly. So And I ate lots of good real food, which we love. So don't think that we don't eat because we love our food, like Jen's burger.
I love food. I love good food.
Thank
Yeah,
you for listening in. For those of you who are on live, for those of you watching the recording, make sure that you can message us and ask us any questions. And yeah, that's it from us today. So thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your time. And
pleasure.
we will chat soon. Thanks.